a lot of you can multitask. You are not a dumb bunch of people. A lot of you are watching or seem to be able to consume all the media of a morning, including listening to the platform, corresponding with me, listening to News Talk Ed Bean, AM show, breakfast on TVNZ, and it's wonderful. You keep me briefed as to what all the so-called competition are doing. Apparently this morning it's all about journalists crying in their cups because they lost their job, and it's all about Paddy has tissues. Paddy Gower has tissues this morning, apparently, is the big deal. I think it's all quite hilarious. Look, part of this narrative that we're being bombarded with, and I suspect for most of you couldn't give a tinker's, part of the narrative emerging is that somehow the government must do something. Oh, you must do something. Mum, Dad, can you do something? Mum, Billy's being mean to you. Can you do something? And everyone's saying Melissa Lee needs to save the media. I would say the media needs to save itself. But it's really interesting then, well, if the government's going to intervene to save, do a tax on the internet companies, I don't know, try and regulate the platform, or just give money, because this is what they did with the PIJ. If you just give money to the legacy media companies, you just subsidise them. How would you feel about that, I wonder? Do you really believe that democracy is at threat, that the sky is going to fall? Well, one organisation decided to ask that question. Connor Molloy from the Taxpayers Union joins us now. Good morning to you, Connor.
Morning, Sean. How are you?
Very well, thanks. So you guys do regular polling on issues with Curia, excellent research company, and you've decided to probe whether or not there is public support for a bailout of the legacy media, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay, what did you ask people, basically? What was the general tenor of the inquiry?
So the question we asked people, I may as well read it out in full for transparency. So we said, you may have heard reports about the proposed closure of News Hub. Would you support or oppose taxpayer money being used to fund struggling private media companies?
Yeah. So it was specific to private media companies, not to TVNZ and RNZ. Okay, that's a pretty straightforward question. What was the response?
So it was pretty overwhelming. So we had 55% of those polled were opposed to taxpayer bailouts for media companies. Just 29% were in support, and 15% were unsure. I think when you dive into the numbers, what's even more interesting is that across every single demographic, there is a majority or a plurality, meaning more people opposed than in support of the bailout, across every demographic, bar Labour voters, and also for those aged under 40, it was split down the middle.
So young Labour voters the most likely to want taxpayer funding of
yes.
the media, people most unlikely to be paying tax. Sorry, that was a slightly sarcastic aside. That is pretty universal. In truth, though, one would find it hard to imagine a circumstance in which the government could justify any sort of subsidy or financial assistance for News Hub.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that the government has done bailouts. We've seen things with, the likes of Rio Tinto and some of the finance companies in the past. We've seen people in the media and online try and make the justification that media is a public good and that people value it. And so, taxpayers should fund it that way. But what we're seeing from this polling is that, taxpayers and people more generally are just simply unwilling to reach into their own pockets to fund media organisations that they're becoming increasingly disillusioned with. You look at the latest media trust surveys that have come out just in the last couple of days, and this year only 33% said that they trusted the news in general. I think that's a huge problem, but we know from previous Curia polling that we've done that media funding actually undermines perceptions of independence.
Yeah, and it has in the last 6 years, Connor, hugely. Yeah. Hey, I understand that Mike Hosking of the Ripped Jeans and Doesn't Own a Razor put it to Paddy Gower this morning that a lot of people had no sympathy for the media's position and asked Mr. Gower to respond. Apparently he told the public to get stuffed and that he worked hard, which seems to me to be the perceptive problem that many in the news media have. They really haven't been listening very hard to their potential audience, Connor.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with any business. The fundamental principle for all businesses should be that they do not get a dollar of my money unless I voluntarily choose to give them that dollar. And so when media aren't providing a service that people value, they're either not going to look at the media, so then they can't get the advertising revenue, or we've got plenty of great media outlets that actually charge.
You're on one
and put their work behind it
right now.
A paywall. Absolutely, Paul, and I'm sure. I'm sure many people are subscribing to the Platform Plus. I'm sure, so I'll give you a shout out there.
Okay. Look, the way the government could get around this, if there is no public support for direct taxpayer subsidies to the snowflakes at Newshub, the other idea, of course, being pushed is, though it was introduced by Labor, a tax on Facebook, Google, the internet advertisers, and then taking that tax directly and subsidising existing legacy media with it. Do you think that is a way to get round this lack of public support? Or do you think that would be seen as simply a kind of too cute move?
Look, I'm sure Video Easy and United Video would have supported taxing Netflix to subsidise the video stores as well. The fact of the matter is that, media is changing. Our media companies need to innovate to this world.